but there is an entire right-wing media ecosystem.
Yes.
It doesn't exist on the left, and it does not exist in the center or mainstream.
Peace is breaking out. And the war against legacy media has been won when it comes to the Trump campaign. Let's see what happens around the world. And let's have a look at how CNN undertake an autopsy on their own dismal demise.
And here's how we got beat. We got beat because the Republicans and the conservatives built a different media system that had to do with online, had to do with podcasts, had to do with streaming platforms, and they were spending their money there. We were laughing at them and knocking on doors in Philadelphia and Detroit. It's like, there's no Trump people. They're not dropping literature. They're not knocking on doors.
In fact, it was laughing like, oh, Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk with their PACs don't know what they're doing.
We were making fun of Donald Trump for having thrown away his ground game and doing some weird stuff online. We thought that they were idiots. It turned out we were the idiots. We woke up in a body bag because while we were knocking on doors, they were making these phones into 24-hour-a-day political weapons for themselves. And so we got outflanked, outplayed, outbeat by people who told us the whole time that they knew what they were doing.
Pretty good acknowledgement, too little too late, but you can bet that now they won't be in the position to surveil and censor in the way that they'd been planning to, using mostly the idea of hate speech and misinformation. They'll be looking at campaigning more intelligently. So you'll see more populist figures, I imagine, arise in the centre left. But the problem's going to be the crippling hypocrisy. All of us are hypocrites to a degree because we're all fallen, flawed and broken. But there's nothing quite like the hypocrisy of people that continually claim that they're there only to help you. We just want to help you. But how much is butter again? These people will find it difficult to resonate on that frequency because there is something they are concealing that is most dark and malfeasant. And with now the ascent and supremacy of independent media continuing to rise, what vessels and vassals will they deploy to oppose this message? Let me know in the comments and the chat. This could be the end, the death of legacy media. There could be no more CNN, no more MSNBC, no more BBC. They're particularly vulnerable because they're a taxpayer model. Imagine if there was a popular movement in the UK for people to just stop paying their license fees. Imagine if people turned on centralized moguls or started to legislate against the owners of these conglomerates that sit behind MSNBC and CNN. What would happen then? It will crumble. It will be decimated. And who will grieve? Who will grieve but for the liberal professional class that have claimed to be supporting and helping? Now, my position is this. With the recapture of the institutions of democracy, there are a million ways that America and the world might be run. One principle I'd be keen to convey to you for what little it's worth. 2 cents is about what I'd offer you. Subsidiarity, maximum democracy for each community, each individual. True republicanism, where the public is in charge of their institutions of government. Old media versus new media. New media is surely victorious. I, for a moment, pondered the possibility of new figures emerging politically that might carry the populist baton for alternatives to nativism and nativist policy and politics, i.e. the movements that are rising in France, Hungary, my country, the UK, Ireland, and obviously with the victory of Donald Trump, your country, the United States of America. But actually, what's likely is they will try to, perhaps in their last 75 days before they're unceremoniously booted out of office, look to find ways to impose regulation or control. Do you think that's possible? Here they are, bemoaning their inability to censor and claiming that they should be able to.
One thing that I think stands out also, we can't have this conversation, a little bit to your point, Dana, is that maybe it's not so much Democrats' policies or messaging or the words that they use specifically, but there is an entire right-wing media ecosystem. It doesn't exist on the left, and it does not exist in the center or mainstream, and people are getting their information in very different ways now.
It actually does exist on the left, they're just not very good. I've seen some of them, like on YouTube, they get supported by the algorithm in ways that we get attacked here. That's why it's so important, if you are watching this on YouTube, to subscribe to Rumble, where we can speak freely, where there is no algorithm, where we're able to talk about whatever we want to talk about openly. Look in the chat. People in there give me a hard time. Look in the Awaken Wonder chat. People talking about important theological issues. YouTube will amplify centrist, globalist, corporatists. They know not what they do in their advocacy for further authoritarianism. You know, the govern me harder daddy crew. Make me wear a mask. Make me take my medication. Make us march to war for 1,000 different nations. take our taxes, curtail and control us, never thinking or reflecting for a moment that we don't need no big daddy state. We need maximum democracy, maximum subsidiarity, maximal control over our communities. Who's out there advocating for that? Let me know.
And Donald Trump and Republicans and Elon Musk and Joe Rogan know exactly how to reach Americans where they are, regardless of age and demographic.
It's really interesting that, because Joe Rogan as well is not like a media strategist. Joe Rogan, if you go and watch his old podcast, is doing what he did in sort of podcast number 100, 500, 1000. He's doing the same thing that he's doing right now. Open conversations with people that he's genuinely interested in. It's not become like, this is what will work. This is what will work.
And that played a big role in this because of the fact of like that, whether it was disinformation, misinformation, or different propaganda that they were feeding to the American public that made them feel the way they did, and the American public felt as though that they were being heard by Donald Trump.
Plants heal with what I would call comment of the day. Without double standards, they would have no standards. Very good.
I think in a normal country, we would say, hold on a second, maybe we need to have a different set of regulations for social media platforms now they're this big, and maybe we need to have less money in the system. But that conversation is not happening yet.
Okay, let's see how Glenn Greenwald responded to all of this. These people, speaking about that CNN clip, are the most self-deluded, pompous and ignorant on the planet and fully deserve all the hatred and distrust they've earned. They're going to sit there and pretend there's no pro-Dem part of the media the way the right has. Everyone knows they are it. And in fact, as someone pointed out in the comments, they just said, we lost. What does that tell you? That's the kind of partisanship that's evident and obvious. Here's Elon Musk saying that the difference was Trump going on podcast. Let me know in the comments and chat if you can even begin to oppose that.
I think it made a big difference that President Trump and soon-to-be Vice President Vance went on lengthy podcasts.
Yes.
I think this really makes a difference because, people look at like Joe Rogan's podcast, which is great, and Lex Friedman's and the All In podcast. Yeah. And to a reasonable-minded, smart person who's not like hardcore one way or the other, they just listen to someone talk for a few hours, and that's how they decide whether you're a good person, whether they like you. And this is why I actually posted on X nothing would do more damage to Kamala's campaign than going on Joe Rogan, because she'd run out of non sequiturs after about 45 minutes.
Yeah, you can't hide in 3 hours.
Yeah, like hour 2 and 3 would be a complete melted puddle of nonsense. So it would just be absolute game over. That's why I shouldn't go on. But on the hand, Trump he's there, and there's no talking points. He's just being a normal person, just having a conversation. And doing 3 hours of Rogan, no problem.
It's a different world now that we are living in, and perhaps the Trump-Vance MAGA model isn't the only iteration of that. Patriotism, nativism, America first, non-interventionism, republicanism, maximum power for each of the states and communities within those states. Is that what's being advocated for? Let me know in the comments and chat. I'm a visitor in your country. Personally, for me, as long as each of us individually are in alignment with principles derived from somewhere other than the mind of man, fallen, sinful and broken, we're in with a chance of building systems and societies that are a better reflection of our higher nature and not being mired and trapped in the darkness that it appears that global corporatism seems set to trap us in, using, curiously and literally ironically, the false Luciferian light of rationale, of apparent logic, but apparent logic that leads to nihilism, meaninglessness, Epicureanism, and the redundant and ridiculous pursuit of pleasure. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and the chat? Remember, you can become an Awaken Wonder and join us once a week for Break Bread, where we take communion, chat about Christianity, invite new audiences and questions and opposition. Who's your favourite atheist? Who would you like to have on there? You want Ricky Gervais, don't you? Of course you want Ricky Gervais. Of course he's everyone's favourite atheist. Get him on in the holy name of the Lord. Let's reach out to him. The war against free speech is in full swing. We are the vanguard, bravely fighting back. Rumble's the home of this channel, Stay Free, and a leader in defending the fundamental human right of free speech. They've joined X to sue a cartel of advertisers and ad agencies who conspired to block ad revenue from going to the platforms. Recently, they've launched Rumble Premium. This, I think, is going to be a game changer for all of us. It's an ad-free viewing experience with great perks for viewers and creators. Rumble Premium will give you the ability to dive into your favorite content on your mobile or desktop or smart TV and savor every uninterrupted second of my content. Why don't you upgrade to Rumble Premium today? Support my free speech and the free speech of other content creators on this platform. Please go to Rumble now, rumble.com/premium. And if you use the code BRAND, you'll save $10 and Rumble will be aware that our stream is creating great converts. So that's rumble.com/premium and do use the code BRAND to save $10. Anyway, there's a link there at the bottom of the screen now. We're posting it in the chat. Join up. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.